Good morning, Year 3. I hope you're well. It's time to do some English today. Now, it's Wednesday today, so I'm hoping that you have been learning about direct speech with Miss Coslow and how to actually write it correctly. I'm also hoping that yesterday you planned your own myth using the 5 sections and using your creature from when we did the poem way back in week 1. Mine's looking a bit tatty by now, but I think it'll be okay. So you've got the same toolkit, which we need to look at before we start to remind us of all the different things that need to go on a myth. And as I said, this is the same toolkit as you used last week, except for I've adapted it slightly. So the first thing we're doing is we're looking at the purpose and audience, which is to write a Greek myth to entertain my classmates or my family about a hero defeating a monster. So we've got to think of all these different things here to keep the reader amused. So first of all, we've got to make the reader want to retell the story. Then we've got to make sure the reader can picture all the characters, the locations, and the monsters in their heads. They need to understand where and when things are happening. They also need to keep the reader in suspense. So they need to kind of like want to read and keep carrying on. The reader connects with and wants the hero to succeed. And you might feel sorry for the creature, depends on your creatures. So to do that, we need to include paragraphs, rich vocabulary to describe setting and characters, etc. And you have got those word banks. So can I suggest that you print off or look at the word banks from last week and from the poem, okay? I've got that at the end as well. Use conjunctions like while, when, etc. to add some more detail. Time adverbials, one sunny day. I know some people got that as a target, so remember to keep that in. Some ellipses, I'm not sure what that is. I suppose that's to add suspense. And then here, some short sentences. That's very good impact. I've got here some character speech. Now underneath it, I put down how you actually write direct speech. So 3 things. So the first thing you need are inverted commas, speech marks, around what the person says. And there's my examples. You've got my speech mark, and it says hello. Then you've got my exclamation mark. And after that, you've got another speech mark or inverted commas. So you've got to remember when someone else talks, you start on a new line. That's so to help the reader organise in their head so they can clearly see who's talking at what point. And here, this is another thing to remember, punctuation before the closing inverted comma. Okay, so if you can remember that, fantastic, but we're really going to concentrate on these bits in our myths. Okay, now, usually when we're doing writing at school, we do a shared write and we all come up with ideas together. Here at home, it's a bit harder. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to actually write something up on my flip chart, but I've tried it and it's impossible. So I apologise that I've already written this, but let's go through it and have a little look. First thing you notice, I've written Wednesday. Some people know it's my favourite day of the week to write. And then I put my title, which is Prince Yanni and the Lion Ache. Prince Yanni is my hero and the Lion Ache's my monster. It's not a very exciting title, but quite often you see there's titles like that in Greek myths, like Theseus and the Minotaur. So I've just kind of copied that style. And when I started writing this, I did look back at the Pegasus myth, and I used some of the language from that in here as well. So I've magpied lots of ideas from other sources. You might be able to recognise some bits. So I started off. Many thousands of years ago in ancient Greece, there lived a young, handsome prince named Yanni. So here, I've told the reader where my myth is taking place and how long ago, so you know where and when it's taking place. Then they know who the main character is. And I've given a little bit of detail using expanded noun phrase using a young, handsome prince. As a member of the royal family, Yanni lived a comfortable life, surrounded by servants in a beautiful palace made out of the finest marble that reflected the purple sunsets and crystal blue waters of the Aegean Sea. So again, this is my introduction. I really want the reader to get a sense of place, so where the story is set, and also a sense of the character. So in this bit here, I've put down again a bit more about Yanni's life, so the reader knows that this is not a normal villager. This is a real rich person. He's quite privileged, doesn't have to do much for himself, okay? Oh, and don't forget, look, can you see this bit here? This is my fronted verbal over comma, and here I've got another fronted verbal there as well. Okay, so let's go down here. So he lives in a beautiful palace. The cool breeze wafted through the palace, ensuring its residents were never too hot. So again, that's just to give the reader a bit more of a picture in their head, so they can see this beautiful palace situated next to the Aegean Sea, and in it they can see this rich young man who is surrounded by his servants. Aha, but there is a problem. However, Yanni's opulent lifestyle was soon to be destroyed forever. Now, this is my little hook here to keep the reader interested. Because the reason we're like, I wonder why Yanni's lifestyle is going to be destroyed. And also, when I did the sentence, I just put rich or something like that. But the word opulent means like wealthy, and I quite like that vocabulary choice. And here, can you see I've got an apostrophe? Don't ever use an apostrophe for a plural. This is because the lifestyle belongs to Yanni. So I've got here, it's a possessive plural, apostrophe. So I've got here Yanni, apostrophe S. Make sure you do that, but don't use apostrophes in plurals. I keep seeing that in people's work. Okay, so that's that first paragraph that describes the settings, sets the scene for the reader. Now this one here, okay, this is where I'm going to introduce a problem. All right, so this is what I'm thinking about doing here. So again, I've got a fronted a verbal to say, can I give the reader more of like an idea of the place. So one beautiful summer's morning, and time actually. Okay, so that's my fronted verbal. Unaware of how his life was about to change, Prince Yanni was being served his usual breakfast of crusty bread, Greek yogurt, honey. So again here, I've kept this bit in here because I really want the reader to know how rich he is. He has a usual breakfast, he's being served, so he doesn't have to get anything for himself. So the reader knows that this is a really rich person. When all of a sudden there was a great clatter and shouting coming from the palace gate. So I've thought about how I can do this. So I put when, and I've got all of a sudden there was a great clatter and shouting coming from the palace gate. So as ever I can noise, I've kind of tried again to hook the reader into it. And then I put, what's all that racket? Yanni crossly exclaimed. Now this is when my direct speech has come in, okay? So I have started on the new line because it's not to do with the palace gate. And here I've got my first set of inverted commas, and I've got my second set of inverted commas, and before that, punctuation. And then this is called my reporting clause, because this says who says the speech. So it's Yanni. I haven't wrote Yanni said though, crossly exclaimed. It's a bit more interesting saying said. Sometimes children get a bit fixated with writing the word said, so try not to write it too much, because it doesn't really describe how the person is talking. Okay, so this is my new paragraph here. Suddenly, a dishevelled, that means kind of like somebody who's kind of like a bit scruffy, not quite all together, maybe a bit dirty. So suddenly a dishevelled man burst into the room and slid across the polished floor, throwing himself at Yanni's perfumed feet. Now that whole sentence is to give the reader a bit more context as well. I would say dishevelled, I could have written dirty man, but dishevelled again is a better vocabulary choice. Burst into the room. So again, you can imagine in your head this person, really scruffy, bursting into the room and sliding across the polished floor. Again, that kind of refers back to the fact that Yanni lives in the palace. Perfume feet, again, I could have just written feet, but I wanted to read it again to get the sense of Yanni being really rich, so that's why I use the word perfume. My lord, the grubby man cried, I am so sorry to disturb you, but I urgently need your assistance. So again, here, direct speech, inverted comma, reporting clause here. So I've had to use a comma here before my closing inverted commas, and then I've put down my reporting clause, who's talking, and then I've carried on my sentence. Okay, and I could have written help here, but I thought assistance was kind of like a little bit more formal. Or maybe when you were talking to somebody rich, you might say assistance rather than help. And then here, can you see I've started on a new line? And that's because the grubby man is no longer speaking. Yanni is now speaking. Why? What on earth is the matter? Yanni asked quizzically. And again, I haven't said, I put the word quizzically. That means like questioning. So I've just described how he's asking it. And then I've started on a new line down here. The man stared mournfully at Yanni, tears streaming down his grubby face. I put a little bit more detail in here to this sentence, so the reader knows that this man is really upset. He's not just a little bit upset, he's really upset. My village is being terrorized. We are starving to death. The hideous beast is destroying all our crops, leaving only fields of charcoal in his wake. So, and then I've got my inverted commas there. So in this section of writing, you as a reader have been told what the problem is. Okay, so there's somebody or a beast who's terrorizing the village. It's destroying all the crops. There's only fields of charcoal left. These people have got nothing to eat. Prince Yanni looked aghast. That means was shocked. Can you describe this creature? So again, this is really a plot so that the reader gets an image in their head of what this creature looks like. We call it the lion egg, stuttered the villager, because it has the body of a serpent and the head of a lion. We need you, noble prince, to be a hero and rid us of it forever. Now, I didn't realise when I invented this lion egg, it's quite similar to the chimera, but never mind. So again here, it's then the villager is reaching out, saying he wants Yanni, the hero, or not, as the case may be, to come and save the village. So he's imploring Yanni to come and save it. So let's see what happens next. Yanni thoughtfully chewed a piece of bread and wondered what to do. Slowly he rose from his golden chair and gazed at the quivering man. So here I've made a reference back to Yanni's breakfast. So the reader now remembers that actually, yeah, Yanni was eating his breakfast at the time. So what's happening? So he's wondering what to do. So he's not sure about what to do. Here, for effect, I put slowly as my frontal verbal. So he's not getting up quickly, he's getting up slowly. So he's still thinking about it. Golden chair, again, refers back to rich. And where we've got here, the quivering man, you know, you're still getting the villager still upset, still in shock. With his hands on his hips, Yanni proudly declared, I am a hero, and I will defeat this lion egg to save your people. Let us depart immediately. So he's got his hand on his hips. Heroes come out quite often as a stand with their hand on their hips, don't they? So, and then he's proudly declared. So he's obviously made his mind up on Yanni that he is a hero. Proudly declared. Means maybe it's going to be a bit vain. I am a hero, and I will defeat this lion egg to save your people. So he's already made a statement that he's going to go and do this. There's no question about it. He might have second thoughts afterwards. Let us depart immediately. Again, I could say, come on, let's go. But then I think a prince might say, you know, speak in a bit more formal language. So let us depart immediately. I thought it was a bit more formal. Okay. So that's the end of my paragraph there. And underneath, so they both set off, Yanni on his magnificent white horse, and the villager running eagerly at his side. So again, what we've done to remind the reader, okay, and so the reader knows how they're travelling. Yanni on his magnificent white horse, again, refers to the fact he's rich, and the poor villager running eagerly at his side. So in those two sections, I have described the scene. So I've told the reader whereabouts this has taken place and when it's taking place. Then I've introduced the problem, okay, of the monster, and I have persuaded Yanni that he's going to go because I've kind of appealed to his kind of sense of pride and said, well, you know, you're hero, you're prince, so therefore you need to come and save it. So those are my first two sections. Now today, I do not expect you to write any more than the first two sections on your planning document. This took me quite a while to do, okay, but so it probably will take you quite a while to do too. Now, when you're writing and you'll get a bit stuck, do not forget you've got these word banks to help you, all right? Okay. So have a little look and use them. They've got loads of amazing vocabulary, language and imagery on there. And just because they were from before doesn't mean to say you can't use them. I'm sure your hero's pulse might race at some point, and I'm sure maybe your beast is feeling quite resentful. So don't forget to look at those. Remember how to use direct speech. If you're not sure, look back on the toolkit, all right? And then tomorrow we'll do a bit more, okay? But don't worry about finishing it today. Right, see you tomorrow.